Constitutions are very significant for a country's success. It acts as a guide for every citizen, especially those in position. It helps in organizing the whole nation by making laws and protocols that ensures the safety of the people and in addressing their concerns. Martial law, for example, is implemented, which transitioned a presidential type of government into a modified parliamentary one.
And so it is that, as I promised all of you, my countrymen, on that fateful morning of September 23, 1972, when I announced the proclamation of martial law.
The Philippines, on the 23rd of September 1972, martial law was declared by the late President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. to improve the security and stability of the nation. But arguments sprout during and after the implementation. Is Marcos' martial law good or bad?
Many stories were made about the 1972 martial law. People had many different experiences, good and bad. What was really behind the implementation and what were its effects? Let's understand the matter through different experiences of people during that time.
Itong martial law nga sa panahon ni Marcos, na-reduce ang violence against sa mga komunista at nga time. Then, tupad po ni Marcos ang land reform para sa mga mag-uuma na maugiyang tagaang pansin ang mga farmers ato.
To some, the declaration of martial law was a good idea. According to them, peace had been established during that time, like crime rates were low. That's the benefit of the martial law for them. But things are not the same in different places in the Philippines. Some also had bad experiences.
Sofian Al-Jadalin. Kasi ko September 21, 1972, kinikita sa Marcelo. So kaya ko anong Marcelo, natagawa man niya mga pinasan niya. Di, sukab na rin mga Muslim na di matataruto ko. Pagdatarong miyawit sa politika. Nag-take advantage sa mga politisyan. Sa paman na miyawsarian sa military. Para ma-permanente siyang posisyon nila. Disadvantage niyo Marcelo. So mga kangudon, buta dapat na ka-Marcelo na nagtaran. Nag-isipla kami sa Ligon. Doon na, yung nga gusto maranaw, kuha ng maranaw sa Ligon na kuha, na makawa kami. Nagiti, nga po sa ginawa kami. Sa pamana, may kapangkat kami sa kilo mga organisasyon. Hindi siya po na nakapang-premier. Ang utak kaya Marcelo niya, nasa mga military na siya po manili. Basta nakakusong na doon yan, upang makakamulo man, matas kayo mo. May diyang na matiga-tiga ka, diyan ka kailan, tinarigil ka. Dito ikarataan yan. Diyan po nagkugol siya na sugdo sa manok ko. Oo, nga manok siya kataguling ka pala ko na, di ba kanina siya kataguling ka naman. Di, doon adotiran. Niya kayo sapon. Nakagigipis ko. Na ay kaya kontra ko na Marcelo. Agosto. Niya kumukontra ko na Pisco. Philippine Hydroelectric Services Company. Yung timanang tapis ko. Na rupiya gagawin. Nabisyan yung gilbo ko. 24 hours pa na September. So ka September. So mga gumagilbo ko. Ay kung hindi ko mga sudo sa mga traka-akuan. Yung sa mga material sa Ligon. Nasa katawa sundaro. Escortan niya ng dump truck. Niya disgrasya na ginawa niya. Niya tingdo siya na kain niya. Yung makaw mas na batalyon. Natin na inabusiran. Kasi sa lahat, mismo pangkar. Kung makaw mas mga sundaro. Nagulan na palibaro silang nuwalay siya. Hindi ka man na karat o marsyal ba? Hindi ka makadugaya. Mapit sa kaplag ka. Niya rasa sa mga tao. Hindi mo nyung gaya-gaya. Nagkaya kaso nga nagkaya ba yan sa kapit. Hindi ka kaso nga. Objective Marcos. Lagi sa posisyon.
Nga kung nahinungdungan katong pagmarsyalo ni Marcos, kuso kayong pagpangawat sa mga kahayupan. Dayon mahal ang palaliton, ang unang yung bugas. Pagpangabuso, ilandak po ng mga babae, himuon nilang mead.
The martial law had caused great damage for them. They couldn't attain their own rights, and soldiers did all that they wanted with people. Even those who were not at fault would be accused and get arrested. They would also kill whom they wanted to kill. They never gave respect to the people. That is why some had to join rebel organizations to fight for their rights. Most of the research studies about martial law consider the implementation a terrible idea. It was a complete downfall for the country, very far from what others consider as the golden age. Moreover, aside from the pros and the cons of martial law, some parts of the country did not actually feel anything relevant about it.
Wala sa ko maistorya na ato kay bata-bata pa ko ato nga time. Dayon dili ko na ko mapil ang martial law kay kuan man. Tungod to ami sa bukid, nagpuyo. Walay isa balita.
Not all really experience a considerable effect of the martial law. Location and availability of news, maybe, are something that caused it.
Although they don't have direct experiences with the martial law, they were still able to feel the impact of it, especially its negative effects, through radios, since several televisions and news programs are shut off. It is clear that the Filipinos view the Batas Militar differently. If a certain part of the country is reigning doesn't really mean that the other parts are experiencing the same.
Martial law was implemented by Ferdinand Marcos Sr. to put the whole country under an authoritarian kind of discipline. He claimed that he has done so in response to the communist threat posed by the newly founded Communist Party of the Philippines and the sectarian rebellion of Mindanao Independence Movement. Moreover, Marcos made an instruction to the then Justice Secretary Juan Ponce Enrile as he foresaw an escalation of violence and disorder in the country.
During the time Philippines was in martial law under Ferdinand Marcos Sr., power was concentrated in the hands of the regime, leading to widespread suppression of dissent, censorship, and human rights abuses. Marcos utilized martial law as a means to extend his rule beyond constitutional limits, enrich himself and his allies, and silence opposition voices. Political opponents, activists, and journalists critical of the government were targeted, often facing arbitrary detention, torture, or exile. Economic sources were exploited for personal gain, fostering widespread corruption and economic inequality.
The 1973 Constitution contained provisions for human rights that were often disregarded during the Marcos regime. The 1973 Constitution was crafted during the martial law era under President Ferdinand Marcos Sr., resulting authoritarian government. The 1973 Constitution of the Philippines under President Marcos was characterized by authoritarianism, centralization of power, and the suppression of democratic institutions, while the 1987 Constitution represented a return to democracy, decentralization of power, protection of human rights, and promotion of transparency and accountability in government.
The 1987 Constitution is often called or dubbed as the Freedom Constitution because it represents a time of change and the restoration of the democratic values in the country.
The term Freedom Constitution specifically refers to the temporary constitution that was put in place after the revolution. The purpose of the Freedom Constitution was to restore the civil liberties and democratic institutions that had been suppressed under the previous regime. It aimed to bring back the fundamental rights and freedoms of the Filipino people, such as freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and the right to participate in fair and free elections. The interim government wanted to ensure that the power was returned to the people and that they could have a say in the decisions that affected their lives.
And Article 11 of 1987 Constitution of the Philippines outlined provision for accountability mechanism, including those public officers and employees. These mechanisms are intriguing because they are essential for promoting transparency, integrity, and good governance in the country. This established standards of conduct for public officials, ensure they are held accountable for their actions, and provide avenues for addressing corruption and abuses for power. By upholding accountability, Article 11 helps to safeguard the public interest, strengthen democratic institutions, and foster trust between the government and its citizens.